This podcast contains content generated or significantly edited using artificial intelligence tools. All information is provided for general informational purposes only and reflects knowledge available at the time of publication. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. We recommend that listeners verify the information independently and consult with qualified professionals for personalized advice. Welcome to the Luxembourg Fundcast. Today, we're diving deep into the intricate world of mergers and acquisitions, M&A, specifically within Luxembourg's financial sector. Now, Luxembourg, it's got this great reputation, right? A top global hub for complex cross-border deals.
Absolutely. That stable legal framework, the sophisticated financial ecosystem, and that flexible corporate law, it's all been key.
But things are changing. We're seeing a pretty seismic shift in the regulatory landscape. It's really reshaping how deals get done.
That's right. Planning, negotiation, execution, it's all evolving.
So our mission today is to, unpack this transformation, help you navigate it effectively. And we want to anchor this discussion around two critical takeaways, things you should really remember. First, it feels like the end of an era. We've got this impending national merger control regime coming.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's Luxembourg's first mandatory pre-deal approval system for, significant transactions. It's a fundamental change from how things used to be, adds a whole new layer of planning and risk.
Definitely a shift from the historically non-interventionist approach.
Exactly. And second takeaway. M&A due diligence. It's caught in what we're calling a regulatory pincer movement.
A pincer movement. Explain that a bit.
Well, it means the simple financial health checks aren't enough anymore, not by a long shot. Acquirers now have to grapple with foreign direct investment FDI screening, plus intense scrutiny on anti-money laundering, AML, and know your ass of compliance.
And DORA.
Yeah, can't forget DORA.
Right. And the Digital Operational Resilience Act, DORA. It's fully applicable from January 2025. And its core purpose is ensuring financial firms can handle major ICT disruptions. Makes digital resilience a key asset or liability.
Precisely. So we'll unpack all of this and more. Let's begin.
Sounds good. As you said, Luxembourg's M&A world isn't just one rule book, it's multi-layered.
Yeah, it's this mix of flexible corporate law and then these specific, often EU-driven regulations on top.
Especially for public companies or supervised entities.
And we're seeing this clear trend, right, moving away from that hands-off approach towards a more regulated model. It mirrors what's happening across Europe.
It does. A deal that might have been purely private just a few years back, now it can trigger obligations across the board.
Corporate law, takeover rules, prudential supervision, FDI screening, competition law.
Exactly. You need a holistic view now more than ever.
So where's the starting point? What's the bedrock of Luxembourg's M&A framework? Is there one foundational piece?
There absolutely is. At the very foundation, you have the Law of 10, August 1915, on commercial companies, often just called the 1915 Law.
Okay, the 1915 Law.
Yes. It governs the whole life cycle in corporation, operations, reorganizations, including domestic mergers. Its appeal for M&A. Well, it's that flexibility. It gives us key vehicles like the Société Anonyme, the SA, and the Société à Responsabilité Limitée, the SARL.
The workhorses of M&A deals, you could say?
Pretty much globally.
Right.
And importantly, it's not static. It gets updated. Recent tweaks clarified share transfers in an SARL, simplified liquidation rules. It stays business-friendly.
That adaptability sounds crucial. But it's not just private deals, is it? What about listed companies?
That's where a different layer kicks in.
Right.
Primarily the law of 19 May 2006 on takeover bids. The takeover law.
The takeover law. Got it.
Its job is ensuring fair treatment for shareholders, creating an orderly market for control.
And who oversees this?
That would be the Commission de Surveillance du Secteur Financier, the CSSF. They're the competent authority here.
Okay, the CSSF. And is there a key trigger point?
Yes. The critical threshold is acquiring 33.33%, 1/3 of the voting rights in a listed company. Hit that, and you must launch a takeover bid for all the remaining shares.
A mandatory bid, so the law dictates the whole process.
The entire public bid process, yes. From the announcement, the offer details, the timelines, it's all laid out.
So the CSSF is central for takeovers, but their role is wider, isn't it? How does their general supervision impact M&A?
Oh, absolutely. The CSSF is the main prudential supervisor for the entire financial sector here. Banks, investment firms, specialized professionals, PSFs, investment funds.
Their core mission being?
Safety and integrity of the financial system.
Yeah.
And in M&A, their role is huge. Any proposed acquisition of a qualifying holding in a CSSF-supervised entity needs their prior notification and formal approval.
A qualifying holding, how is that defined generally?
Generally, it's 10% or more of capital or voting rights. But there are further notification thresholds too, 20%, 33.33%, and 50%.
And this isn't just ticking a box, I assume?
Not at all. The CSSF does a thorough assessment. They look at the acquirer's reputation, their experience, financial soundness.
So it's a real hurdle.
It's a non-negotiable condition precedent. It can genuinely make or break a deal.
Right. Which brings us back to why due diligence is so vital now. Okay, let's pivot to the big changes, the recent and upcoming ones altering the landscape, these new regulatory approvals.
Yes. Perhaps the biggest headline is the new national merger control regime. That's coming via Bill of Law 8296, expected to be enforced sometime in 2025.
And what's so new about it?
Well, for the first time, Luxembourg will have a mandatory and ex-ante meaning before closing notification and approval system for concentrations.
Managed by?
The Luxembourg Competition Authority.
Okay. And who needs to notify? Are there thresholds?
Yes, there are turnover thresholds. It applies if the combined turnover of all parties involved exceeds 60 million euros in Luxembourg. And crucially, at least two of those parties must each have a turnover in Luxembourg of more than 15 million euros.
Interesting. So it could even catch deals where both companies are foreign if they meet those Luxembourg turnover levels.
Exactly. It significantly expands oversight, even to foreign mergers, if the local thresholds are met.
That is a big change. And alongside that, we have the foreign direct investment screening, the FDI mechanism.
Correct. That's been enforced since September 1st, 2023. It brings an EU regulation into local law.
And who does it apply to?
It targets investors from outside the European Economic Area, the EEA, looking to invest directly in a Luxembourg entity involved in critical activities.
And critical activities includes the financial sector?
Explicitly, yes.
Yeah.
It requires mandatory prior notification to the Ministry of the Economy.
Which could lead to a formal screening.
It could, yes. So it adds another potential approval gate, another timeline factor for international deals touching Luxembourg.
Okay, so we have the existing framework plus these significant new layers, merger control, FDI. How does this change the practical reality? How does a deal actually unfold now?
It's a great question. The key determinant isn't really share deal versus asset deal anymore. It's the regulatory status of the target company.
Right, so a bank versus a simple holding company.
Exactly. A deal for a CSSF-regulated bank or a listed company, that follows a very formal, regulator-driven timeline. Lots of steps, very structured. But a private deal for, say, an unregulated holding company, much more flexibility in how you structure it and the timing.
So the first question for the lawyers is always,
What's the regulatory status of the target? That dictates the critical path, the whole rhythm of the transaction.
makes sense. So can we walk through the typical phases, keeping these new realities in mind?
Sure. We can think of it in about 6 phases, broadly speaking. Phase 1, prep and initial contact. Strategy, finding the target, initial valuation. It's all very discreet. You'll sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA.
But maybe a letter of intent.
Often, yes. A non-binding letter of intent or term sheet, maybe with an exclusivity or no-shop clause.
Okay. Phase 2.
Due diligence. This is the deep dive. Buyer and advisors, check everything. Verify info, identify risks. The scope varies, of course. Comprehensive for an operating company, maybe more limited for a pure holding structure.
And this is where those new pressures really bite.
Absolutely. DD now explicitly covers regulatory compliance. AML rules are huge. Digital resilience under DOIR is critical. And ESG, environmental social governance, is increasingly scrutinized.
Acquiring poor cyber hygiene is acquiring liability.
Precisely. Okay, phase 3, negotiation and documentation. Drafting the main legal agreement, usually a share purchase agreement, SPA, or maybe an asset purchase agreement, APA.
Translating the commercial terms into legalese, allocating risk.
That's it. Phase 4, signing and pre-closing. The SPA gets signed, but the deal isn't done yet.
Right, the period between signing and closing.
Used to satisfy what we call conditions precedent, or CPs. These are the hurdles you must clear before closing.
And the big ones now include
Those regulatory approvals we discussed. CSSF approval, clearance from the Competition Authority under the new regime, maybe FDI screening approval, plus standard things like third-party consents. This phase can really stretch the timeline.
Okay, phase 5.
Closing, the formal handover. Purchase price paid, legal title transferred. The deal is done.
And finally, phase 6.
That's closing. Integrating the business, tying up loose ends, updating records with the Luxembourg Business Register, the LBR. practicalities.
That share purchase agreement, the SPA, seems absolutely central. You called it the cornerstone.
It really is.
And you mentioned it's becoming more dynamic, a risk management tool.
Exactly. In today's climate economic uncertainty, heightened regulatory focus. It's not just a template. It's actively negotiated to manage risk.
So how does that play out in the key clauses? Let's talk about representations and warranties, R&Ws.
Okay, R&Ws. These are the seller's factual statements about the target. Things like, the accounts are accurate, we legally own the assets, we comply with laws.
Their purpose.
Give the buyer a clear picture and a legal basis to claim damages if something's wrong. We often distinguish fundamental warranties like title to shares, long liability from business warranties covering commercial stuff, shorter time limits.
And what's changing here?
The scope and detail.
Yeah.
You're seeing much more specific warranties now on cyber resilience, ESG compliance, AML frameworks, directly reflecting those heightened risks, and DORA.
And if a warranty is breached, that brings us to indemnification.
Correct. Indemnification clauses provide the remedy. But seller liability is almost always limited.
How so?
Through several mechanisms. A cap, a maximum payout, often a percentage of the price, a basket or deductible, a threshold before claims can even be made, a de minimis cause for tiny individual claims, and strict time limits.
So lots of negotiation around those limits.
Intense negotiation, and we're seeing more warranty and indemnity insurance, W&I insurance being used.
W&I, how does that help?
It bridges the gap. The buyer gets protection, the seller gets a cleaner exit, and an insurer takes on the risk of warranty breaches. It's becoming quite common.
Interesting. What about pricing clauses? You mentioned bridging valuation gaps.
Right. Pricing and payment terms are adapting too. Earnouts are common, tying part of the price to future performance, or completion accounts adjusting the price based on the actual financial state at closing.
Versus a locked box.
Exactly. Locked box fixes the price based on an earlier balance sheet with guarantees against value leakage. Completion accounts offer more precision, but can involve post-closing disputes.
And conditions precedent the CPs. We keep coming back to them.
Because they are critical, especially those regulatory approvals from CSSF, Competition Authority, FDI regime. They dictate the timing between signing and closing.
Then there are covenants, promises.
Binding promises, yes. Pre-closing covenants restrict the seller operate normally, no major actions without buyer consent. Post-closing covenants might include non-compete or non-solicitation clauses.
And finally, governing law and disputes. Always important in cross-border deals.
Crucial for certainty. While Luxembourg law usually governs the actual share transfer, parties might choose English or New York law, for example, for the SPA contract itself. Disputes often go to confidential arbitration.
You mentioned earlier that negotiation in a regulated deal here is like a tripartite dance involving the regulator?
Implicitly, yes. Even if the regulator isn't at the table, their shadow looms large.
How so?
Both buyer and seller know the deal hinges on, say, CSSF approval. So the regulator's likely requirements, their potential red lines, heavily influence how terms are negotiated right from the start.
So it's not just about satisfying the other party.
No. Experienced advisors will proactively shape the buyer's plans for governance, funding, integration specifically to pass muster with the CSSF, while also meeting the seller's needs. It's about anticipating regulatory scrutiny.
What about other key negotiation points? Deal structure?
Always a big one. Share deal versus asset deal. Simplicity versus cherry-picking assets, inheriting liabilities versus avoiding them, tax implications. It's complex.
And deal protection, break fees.
Often negotiated, yes, to compensate a party if the other walks away unfairly.
And achieving 100% control, getting rid of minority shareholders.
For public companies, there's the squeeze-out mechanism once you hit 95% ownership. For private companies, it's usually done through drag-along rights, pre-agreed in a shareholders agreement, forcing minorities to sell alongside the majority.
Okay, let's talk brass tacks. Costs, pricing, timelines, and then let's circle back to why Luxembourg remains attractive despite all this complexity.
Right, costs. Beyond the obvious advisors, lawyers, potential taxes, the biggest, most unpredictable factor is what we call regulatory drag.
Regulatory drag. Explain that.
Each extra layer of approval, CSSF, FDI, Competition Authority, adds direct costs for the application itself. But more significantly, it extends the deal timeline.
And longer timelines mean?
Higher financing costs, higher advisory fees as work drags on, and just generally more risk that the deal falls apart due to changing market conditions before you can close.
Can you give a sense of timelines?
It varies wildly. A simple, private, unregulated deal, maybe a few weeks. A complex international deal or one involving a regulated target, easily over a year. Public takeovers have their own rigid, multi-month statutory timeline. Regulatory complexity is the key driver.
And financing. How are deals typically funded?
Usually a mix. Shareholder equity, of course.
Yeah.
Third-party debt from banks or funds. Sometimes you see vendor financing where the seller provides a loan to the buyer to help bridge a funding gap.
It definitely sounds like a balancing act, which leads to the big question. With all this extra complexity, this regulatory drag, why Luxembourg? What's the enduring appeal?
That's the crucial point. You have to understand Luxembourg's unique selling proposition. It's not really a deal market in the sense of lots of local companies being bought and sold.
Not a high volume of purely domestic M&A.
Relatively small, yes. Luxembourg's true value, its USP, is being a deal platform.
A deal platform.
Exactly. It offers this unparalleled legal, regulatory, and financial infrastructure that makes it the premier hub in the EU for structuring and executing complex, international, cross-border deals.
So firms use Luxembourg structures to buy assets elsewhere.
Precisely. Private equity funds, multinationals. They set up holding companies or fund structures here to efficiently acquire targets across Europe or globally. Luxembourg is often the vehicle, the platform, not the ultimate target location itself.
That's a really important distinction. What are the pillars supporting this platform status?
Several key ones. First, unmatched legal and political stability. That predictability is gold for long-term, high-value investments.
Makes sense.
Second, that flexible and modern corporate law. We talked about the 1915 law and its tools. Third, the world-class financial ecosystem.
Being the second largest fund center globally helps there.
Immensely. You have this deep concentration of capital, expertise, asset managers, banks, specialist lawyers, auditors, all in one place. Fourth, regulatory credibility.
CSSF approval means something internationally.
It's seen as a hallmark of quality, robust compliance. It reassures international investors. Fifth, inherent cross-border expertise. The whole community thinks and works internationally.
And finally,
Relatively low litigation risk surrounding M&A deals. That adds certainty.
okay, looking ahead then, what's the future hold for M&A in the Grand Duchy? You mentioned the 3 Ds.
Yes. Digitization, diligence, and deals. I think these 3 forces will really shape the landscape.
Let's start with digitization.
Okay. The digitization of finance is fundamentally changing risk and how we define assets. DORA, coming into full force January 2025, is the big driver here. It targets ICT governance, its digital resilience that's now a core part of its value. Buy a company with weak cybersecurity, you're buying a major liability.
And AI.
The rise of AI will continue to fuel M&A too, as companies look to buy rather than build tech capabilities.
Okay, second D, diligence.
It's only going to get more complex. The new normal for any major deal involves navigating this intersection of merger control, FDI screening, rising ESG standards, and that intense AML scrutiny. Diligence is becoming multidimensional.
More hoops to jump through.
Many more. And the third D, deals. Despite the hurdles, the pressure to actually do deals remains incredibly high.
Why is that?
Private equity firms are sitting on huge amounts of uncommitted capital dry powder. That money needs to be deployed.
Combine that with interest rates maybe stabilized.
Exactly. Stabilizing rates, plus the ongoing strategic need for consolidation in many sectors, it creates powerful momentum for M&A activity to keep rebounding through 2025.
We've seen some big deals recently.
Yes. Deals like ABN AMRO buying Hawk and Aufhäuser Lamp signal the renewed confidence in the financial sector here.
So it seems the successful M&A player going forward needs serious adaptability. Mastering this new environment, using tech for smarter diligence, that's key to finding value. As you, listening, reflect on all this complexity, what stands out to you? What's the biggest shift you think you need to prepare for? As we draw to a close, let's quickly recap our 2 key takeaways from today's deep dive. First, the new national merger control regime represents a fundamental shift in the Luxembourg M&A landscape, adding a new mandatory approval step and timeline considerations for all significant transactions. Second, due diligence has become a multifaceted exercise in risk management. Acquirers must now scrutinize targets through the combined lenses of foreign investment screening, anti-money laundering rules, and digital operational resilience under DORA to manage escalating regulatory risk. This podcast contains content generated or significantly edited using artificial intelligence tools. All information is provided for general informational purposes only and reflects knowledge available at the time of publication. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. We recommend that listeners verify the information independently and consult with qualified professionals for personalized advice. Hit that like and subscribe button. It was the Luxembourg Fundcast for you today.